Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the big decision question time for the officer elections. Thank you all for coming. Yes, round of applause for that. Lovely. On this... A titter, lovely. On this Monday evening, obviously this is the start of a very exciting week here on campus, culminating with the big announcement on Friday of who will be our sort of new campaign and our new sabbatical officers. So that's this Friday. That will be revealed, obviously, after a campus-wide vote. So for those of you who are a little bit unaware, and I'm sure that's very few of you, tonight is a special session giving you an opportunity to meet the candidates running for the different sabbatical positions. Now, all the manifestos went up online today, and you can go on there and read through them in their sort of full length at your leisure. But for many of you here tonight, I'm sure you're here because you're supporting someone in particular, but for some of you as well, you'll be... you won't know who to vote for or who to support. And that's perfect, because tonight is about giving everybody the opportunity to sort of meet the prospective candidates, also to hear what they have to say, and also to work out who would be the best person for you, who sort of fits in line with what you think. And obviously that is just to help you with the vote opening on Wednesday at 9 o'clock in the morning, and obviously going on until Friday evening. And just a special note about the vote, for the first time ever, we've got live voter turnout data being published on the website. Yes, another round of applause. So from 9 a.m. you'll be able to see exactly how many people have voted. There'll be a split on gender as well, so the sort of proportions of the vote as well. So that's very exciting, and that all goes live as well with the vote at 9 on Wednesday. Just a little brief on how these sort of next two sessions are going to work, obviously today and tomorrow, both from 5 to 7. We've got 2 hours. Tonight we're going to be going through the positions of sports officer, education officer, postgraduate, and welfare and campaigns officer. And then tomorrow will be DDO, societies, and president. So that's sort of how it's split over the 2 nights. What's going to start with tonight is we will have opening statements from all the candidates, who will have 2 minutes to sort of tell you about their campaign. We've then got a set of questions that have been prepared by the Raw News team and approved by Warwick SU that will be proposed to all of the candidates. And then later in that section, we'll then also open the floor to yourselves. So if there's anything you want to grill them on, or something about their manifestos that you want to pick up on, save it for that last bit at the end, and we will try and get through as many questions as possible. So that is how it's going to be working over the next few nights as well. Just to note, for the opening section, all the candidates will have 2 minutes to talk, apart from tomorrow night, where the presidents will have 3 minutes to address everyone. And then for each answer to each question, there's 30 seconds to give their response, and there's going to be a bell that will ring, which will signify sort of 10 seconds left to go. So to obviously wrap up what you're saying. There it is. Lovely. Right, so let's crack on tonight. We start the question time with the welfare and campaigns officer. That's the first position we're going to be looking at tonight. Just a little bit of background on this. Obviously, the welfare and campaigns officer is going to be raising awareness, as well as improving health and welfare services in areas including mental health, sexual health, and accommodation. This will also involve working very closely with the Student Advice Centre and liaising with Nightline, the Senior Tutors Office, the health services, the chaplaincy, campus security, the NHS, and the local community. So that is the position we're looking at. So we, first of all, we have our candidates here tonight. We have Sophie, we have Ayeste. Have I said that right? It was near enough, I apologise. We've got Tessa, and we've also got Chloe. So we're going to begin with opening statements, and to start, Sophie.
Hi, I'm Sophie. I'm a postgrad here. I'm currently the chair of the welfare exec in the SU. I was an undergraduate senior welfare officer at my old university. I've got 4 years experience in student supporting campaigning, and I've done Nightline training. And basically my top 5 policies are as follows. 1, I want to create a weekend support network. I've run a weekend support, well, a week-long support network led by students for students before, and I want to bring a similar thing here to Warwick. I want to work on reducing academic stress throughout the year by having events going on during peak dissertation and essay deadlines and during exam season. So do things like more doggy de-stress things, more sports sessions to sort of have a break and give you an excuse to procrastinate for just a while. I want to bring a campaign to work called It Happens Here. I've seen it work at my undergraduate university, and it raises awareness of sexual violence on campus all year round rather than at periodic points, and it also creates a support network for survivors is something I think is really essential because in my second year I was sexually assaulted. I know how essential this support network is for survivors. I want to improve postgraduate support. There are so many postgraduates here that need a better support network. I was one of those students. Had I not known through my flatmates where to go, I would have been completely screwed, basically, and I would probably dropped out. And finally, I want to improve awareness of mental health issues and invisible disabilities because, again, it's something very close to my heart, raising awareness of mental health. I've had depression for the past 2 years, anxiety for 10 years, and I know a number of friends who have invisible disabilities who they need to reduce the stigma and feel like you can talk about it, talk to your department about it, and feel like you can be open and honest about things. So that's basically all my points because I tend to speak really, really fast. So please vote for me.
Thank you very much, Sophie. Yeah. Okay, we move on. Ice-T, over to you.
Hi, so I'm Ice-T. I'm third-year PACE student, and originally I'm from Lithuania, so bear with me through my accent. Let me know if there's anything that isn't clear. As an international student at Warwick is an amazing and empowering experience. I took part in many projects. I am a part of PACE SSLC. I'm a part of welfare exec. I volunteer at Advice Center, Got Politics, I Heart Consent, and all of those things have opened up my eyes to many issues that we need to work with, and opened up my eyes to importance of inclusion, communication, and progress. I am a really challenges-driven, enthusiastic, and passionate person, and I think that's the first thing why I decided to run for it, and that's what makes me a great candidate. My action plan focuses on a bigger picture while working on the variety of issues. So I want to build up on the work that has been already done and ensure the accessibility and efficiency of healthcare services, safety on and off campus. While those are kind of big ideas, I believe that small steps can really improve them. However, I think that mental health is just as important as physical health, and therefore I believe in tailored support with whatever issues people have, whether it be exam stress, moving to another country, finances, or anything else. And also, I think that everyone's ideas should be heard. Everyone should have a right to discuss their own views, to campaign. And finally, I believe in inclusion. I think inclusion is crucial, and everyone has to feel as a part of this big university community. So if you've got any questions, have a look at my manifesto or come talk to me, and vote Ice-T for welfare.
Thank you, and we move on now to Tessa.
This is weird. Hi, I'm Tessa, and I'm here to tell you why T-Shills got welfare skills. So, high stress levels have arguably become an accepted part of university life, and my goal is to create a more positive, body-confident, healthier, and stress-free campus. Firstly, I want to work to form a standardized pathway for departmental support. This will mean increasing training on mental health for personal tutors and peer-to-peer support groups. For freshers, I want to push It's OK campaign early on so that people are immediately engaged with the support on offer. I also pledge to bring in a charity and campaigns fair to week 1 to get freshers stuck into volunteering, challenges and fundraising from the moment they arrive. For those further up the university, I will hold dedicated office hours for society and club execs to help ease the difficulties that often arise. We deserve a better quality of life on campus because welfare is about preventing students from struggling as well as helping those who already are. So I will lobby for urgently needed workspaces as it is close to hitting a crisis point. We also need cheaper and healthier food options on campus and do more to urge Warwick Retail to redistribute food wastage. Finally, I want to launch a body confidence campaign to change attitudes to student body image. This will be integrated into the brilliant work achieved by I Heart Consent campaigns. I've experienced how difficult university can be just as much as I've thrived in this wonderful and bizarre place. And for that reason, I hope you think that T-Shills has got welfare skills and that you vote for Tessa for welfare and campaigns.
Very much, Tessa, and now finally, Chloe.
Hi everyone, I'm Chloe Wynne. You might know me as the SU Women's Officer, which I've been in post for about a month. In that month, I've been so active. So what I want to say to you is imagine what I could do in a year. In a month, I've delivered NUS campaigns to campus. I've passed through a motion through the SU democratic channels on increasing accessibility to menstrual care products. It's never been done at Warwick before. I've introduced a new consent campaign, which you can see on all the screens around you on a circulating basis. And I've also worked behind the scenes on planning next year's I Heart Consent campaign and other various permanent student-facing campaigns. I've been really active since my first week at Warwick. For my first month, I was on the exec of the board. I've since been involved with RAW, WTV, Warwick Racing, a political society. I've done so much with my time here that I feel like this is the natural next step. A few things that I really want to prioritise are things like housing. Too many students losing their deposits at the end of the year. I've had it. It is a welfare issue. Affordability as well. Printing costs are quite hit and miss. And also food costs, which is why I want Weatherspoon-style deals and the Dirty Duck. So affordability is a welfare issue. Warwick also feels like a massive rat race, and it induces anxiety quite early on in year 3. So I want to approach that in a healthier way with a good What's Next campaign. Just to approach graduation plans, so not to induce panic. I want to include mental health more regularly into our year with a monthly Are You OK Day like they have in Australia. And on liberation, I've got so many ideas, obviously, as Women's Officer. I'm really keen on bringing HIV testing to campus, getting rid of the erasure that non-binary people face on campus, such as paper forms. Anyway, too much to talk about. Basically, trust winning with welfare. I hope you have any questions.
Thank you, Chloe. Okay, so there we go. We have our opening statements from the 4 candidates, and so we're now going to go to a sort of section of questions. These have been sort of put together by the Raw News Department, so a collection of students, and have been approved by the SU. So we'll begin with number 1. So the issue of sexual violence, assault and harassment is a top priority for many students. We already have the I Heart Consent workshop, yet these are not compulsory. What are you going to do to ensure students feel safe in their environment, both on and off campus? Sophie, we start with you.
Well, as I said, one of my main points is to bring the It Happens Here campaign to Warwick, which will mean that there's a support network all year round for people who are unfortunate to be survivors of sexual assault, and also to increase awareness all year round, because I think it's a tricky conversation to have. And obviously, I Heart Consent, pushing people into a consent workshop might not be the best thing, but sorry. Oh, sorry. I've lost my trail of thoughts.
Don't worry, we have to stop there. So just to remember that the bell is 10 seconds to go. You've got 10 seconds left, but thank you there. Sophie, right. Ice-Tape, over to you.
As I said, I was volunteering with Our Heart Consent, so I strongly believe in the value of this campaign. However, I think instead of making it compulsory, we should probably kind of reintroduce it to students, reintroduce it as a conversation rather than some kind of, something that people could feel like they're attacked upon. So I think the reintroduction of I Heart Consent and also promoting positive masculinity and how to express yourself in different ways are 2 main things I would do.
Thank you very much. Tessa?
So the reason that I wanted to bring the Love Yourself campaign into I Heart Consent workshops is that I think one of the major problems that we have with sexual consent and sexual relationships is that we don't look at how people have incredibly unhealthy relationships with sex when it comes to body image and self-esteem. So I want to look at combating low self-esteem in order to combat some of those poor sexual relationships.
Thank you, Tessa. And finally, Chloe.
Yeah, if elected, I'm going to demand that the university finally conducts a report on the state of harassment on our campus, because it's really hard to work with effectively and tackle this without the correct statistics, so that needs to be done. We've been asking for it for years. The university says no, it needs to change. Also, there's a thing called intervention strategy, which is an amazing initiative. I urge you to look it up. We've also tried to get the university to take this on board, but they won't. And also a permanent consent student-facing campaign that isn't optional.
Thank you, Chloe. Okay, we move on to question 2. Mental health and mental well-being is developing into a main focus here at the SU, and it's coming more to the forefront regarding student priorities. How will you develop these services on campus, and what new things will you introduce to help students and their mental well-being? And I say we start with you.
So as I said, I think mental well-being is just as important as physical one. So it's important to ensure the tailored support for whatever issues student could face, and also to improve accessibility, of counseling services. I believe they're too hard to find. If you're feeling really low, you're probably not going to put that much of an effort to go all the way there. So I believe it should happen in central campus and off campus as well.
Thank you. Tessa.
So mental health is the driving force behind why I want to run for welfare. I believe passionately in doing more for it. And the big things that I want to do is I want to create a universal standardized pathway. Currently, joint honour students in particular get bounced back and forth between various personal tutors and different departments, and there's no clear hierarchy. And I also want to bring in peer-to-peer support groups and more training for personal tutors.
Thank you very much, Tessa. Just a reminder of the question, we're talking about mental health and what are you going to do to ensure students feel safe in their environment? Sorry, no, that's the wrong question. How will you develop the services on campus, and what new things will you introduce to help students and their mental well-being? Apologies for that. Chloe.
So prevention is obviously really important in this, and making sure that the university is investing as much into their advisors as they are into their advertisers. Also, to bring the support services to the heart of campus, Senate House, loads of space, why is it at Westwood? Make it easier for students to access those kind of services. I've already talked about the Rat Race and Are You OK Day and such de-stress events as like bubble wrap and colouring and just mindfulness.
Thank you, Chloe. Thank you. And finally, Sophie.
One thing I want to do is I want to create a clear graphic sort of thing to show what all the support networks in the university are, how you access them and what they can be useful for. And secondly, I want to reduce academic stress throughout the year, because I think that's one of the main issues that contributes to mental health issues. So I want to create a what to do with a 2-2 campaign, because there are so many job options out there. If you do get a 2-2, you don't need to stress about it. And also I want to do a What Warwick Taught Me campaign to focus on the skills you learn outside of your course, because so many employers look for those skills as well now.
Thank you very much. Okay, right, we move on to the next question. And this is, will you end the ban on spaces for campaigning? That's, will you end the ban on spaces for campaigning? And we begin with Tessa.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Well, the question I have here is, will you end the ban on spaces for campaigning? So we can go to another question. Would that be preferable?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What sort of initiatives will you try to develop with the Women's Officer? That's what sort of initiatives will you try to develop with the Women's Officer? Tessa, we start with you.
So quite clearly, the one that's most heavily linked would be I Heart Consent, and developing and making those changes that I propose, adding in the Love Yourself campaign, and also just taking a lead with that Love Yourself and body image campaign itself. Yeah, I think those would be the big things that I'd focus on.
Lovely. Chloe?
Yeah, such positive campaigns are really important, as well as fighting for funding within the Students' Union to make sure that we can have our own student trainers, so that consent classes and those kinds of campaigns have a monitored standard. So that funding's really needed. There's so much that could be done. Changing our code of conduct to explicitly refer to sexual consent. Just a few ideas.
Lovely. Okay. Sophie?
So firstly, I think Women's Officer would be a natural lead for the It Happens Here campaign, because then she could really take the initiative, get a really great campaign behind it. And another area, I think, with postgraduate females at the moment, there can often be issues when they're doing PhDs. They can feel unsure about certain things. I think that would be a good area as well to develop.
And finally, Ice-T.
So as I said, I think that a really important thing is to reintroduce I Heart Consent to make people feel more inclined to go and talk about those issues instead of kind of forcing them upon them. And also I want to introduce kind of positive masculinity workshops, which is, for example, there's a campaign called Good Lad Campaign, which kind of promotes positive masculinity and male leaders.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, the next question. Luke Pilot was very open and encouraging of people in dropping by his office. Is this something that you will continue, and how much of a priority is this to you? And on this question, we begin with Chloe.
Absolutely, top priority. I think all the sabbatical officers have a pretty much open door policy. It's part of the day-to-day work. We represent students, so we want to speak to them face to face. As a women's officer, I have also been doing that. If students contact me, so I'm quite familiar with those kind of things. Top priority, quite simple.
Wonderful. Sophie?
Yeah, absolutely top priority. The amount of times I've gone and cried in Luke's office is ridiculous when it's gotten really bad. And when I was an undergraduate, I had a very open door policy when I was welfare officer there as well, and it was really essential for getting students to come and engage with talking about their well-being.
Okay, brilliant. Ice-T?
So as I said, one of the central things about my manifesto is, and my policies is conversation. So I feel like conversation is the most important thing, and there's just so much I can know, I could possibly know. So I would really need people to tell me about their issues. So besides having my office open, I would have a survey, an online survey throughout the year to ask people to tell me about their issues if they don't feel comfortable coming in and talking about it.
Thank you. And finally, Tessa.
So with the work that I do with my mental health blog, I feel like I already do this anyway. So yes, definitely. But more than that, I would have dedicated office hours for society and club execs, because I feel like they have specialised issues. And I actually recently stepped down from an exec position because I was struggling so much. So I really identify with that. And I think that there's more support needed there.
Thank you very much. Okay, final question that is predetermined. So if you've got questions in the audience that you want to ask, do sort of start thinking of them now or prepare. We will come to you in just a minute. Final question from us. How will you represent unrepresented groups on campus and off campus as well? And we start here with Sophie.
One of my main ideas at the moment is to try and have all the Liberation Officers as part of Student Council. It's something which I'm a member of at the moment, and we've lucked out that we have 5 out of 8 chairs there that are women. If they were all male, it would be an all-male student council. So I think by having the Liberation Officers there, it'll mean that there's always a voice being put forward, and we can develop it from there.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Ice-T?
I feel it's important to work with part-time officers as closely as possible, and again, just have a conversation with them and try to work on several issues with them to feel liberation groups or any kind of groups at university feel as a part of wider community, as I said.
Wonderful. Tessa?
So one of the things that often stops people's voices being heard is that they can't put things through because of charity law. So I would suggest increased training on charity law so that actually you can empower more students to run their own campaigns, to run their own day events, and effectively get their voices out there.
Brilliant. And finally, Chloe?
Yeah, I've already spoken about how non-binary people face erasure and how we can support that. Other specific ones as well. The report in how you report incidents that happen on campus is really not great, like for racial abuse or sexual harassment, so that could change for everyone as well. There's also Prevent, which I'm very strongly against, and the university could be doing less than they already do.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Okay, so now we move over to the public questions. So I'd just like to ask, if you have got a question for our 4 candidates here, if you could pop your hand up now just so we know where to go to. And Mike's going to come around with the mic. We'll start nice and easy for you, Mike, just down here. Is the microphone there? Not, we haven't got a microphone there. Okay, we'll just be working on that technically wise, just for a second. Mike, there's a dial at the bottom, apparently, to unmute it, if you can push that. Sorry about this, we'll just sort this out. We're sending a tech member now, we're just going to get this sorted. Lovely. Live problem. Oh, 1, 2. Is it working? It's working. That was clear. Okay, thank you, Mike. Right, just down the front here, we'll start with you, sir.
Hi, I was just wondering what the candidates thought were the main welfare issues for postgraduate students and what they would do to address these issues.
Okay, we'll start with Ice-T, please.
Yeah, so as I said, I felt that inclusion is really important, and I mean postgraduates as well. So I feel like maybe the survey would be quite an encouragement because it could reach more people through emails to kind of get postgraduate issues forward.
And we come to Tessa.
Yeah, I completely agree. Inclusion is probably what I would think is the biggest issue. For me, on my manifesto, I propose tailored packages specifically for postgrads, but I would also suggest things like one-day events where they can have like refreshers in terms of societies and things like that they can be a part of to sort of bring them more into the everyday student life.
Lovely. Chloe?
I think housing is also a real issue, and affordability, like living wage for postgraduates who teach, which I would fight for, as well as how lonely a postgraduate degree can be. Obviously, we need to make that more accessible for them to get more support. And within that, when you reform the personal tutor system, which I want to do, you can reform specifics about postgraduate supervision. So,
Wonderful. And finally, Sophie.
So one of my main goals is to improve postgraduate support. I want to really be involved with the Welcome Week for it because it can be a bit daunting coming to a new university as a postgrad. I also think I want more PG housing slots because a lot of the housing at the moment is done quite early in the term when we're not thinking about what we're going to be doing next year. We sort of tend to think about PhD in the term, but there's no housing events at the moment for that.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Okay, if you pop your hands back up for questions, if we just go to the gentleman there in the sort of the brown coat, just in the, I think it's the 5th row there. Wonderful.
What do you think the biggest obstacles to an intersectional students' union are?
Okay, and Tessa, we're going to start with you on this one.
Goodness. I would say things like charity law are a big one. They stop a lot of really great initiatives from going ahead, and that was why I proposed charity law training, because I think a lot of students get blocked from doing things. Also, just the lack of awareness in day-to-day life. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Chloe.
I think misrepresentation of what those issues actually consist of as well. So like one of the things on my manifesto is to build a network across all the societies and sports clubs that have liberation officers to really get to nitty-gritty of each of those groups. Obviously one person can't speak for all. So actually trying to really interrogate that and understand it and not have liberation officers as these kind of tokens on the side in our SU. It's really important.
Okay, and Sophie?
I'd like to raise awareness of what the liberation officers do. I think things like Black Mental Health Week are really good at getting people talking about liberation issues. And if we promote more and have more of that throughout the year, it'll mean that you can talk more about the issues, reach out to people and get the conversation going, if you get what I mean.
And finally, Esti.
So yeah, a lot of good things were already mentioned, but I'll just repeat myself once again and say that conversation and awareness is, I guess, the most important things who stop people from doing things. So I think I would just promote awareness and talk to people.
Thank you very much. Okay, if you could pop your hands back up if you do have a question, and we'll try and get to you. We'll go to the lady here, just in this row, here in the jumper.
Hi, this question's for Tessa. Can you explain your policy about the society and execs office hour thing? Because I didn't really understand it.
Sure. Really good question. So essentially, I was on an exec until recently. I was on RAG exec, and I really struggled because I think that people take on societies in a way that you don't actually take on academic work. And so what I'm proposing is dedicated office hours, specific time every single week, where I will be there guaranteed to talk to me about certain welfare issues when you're running a society or a club exec.
There we go. Thank you. Pop your hands back up. Sorry to keep making you put your hands up and down. Yes, just in the red shirt there and the glasses.
Hi. Housing is like a big issue for all students, but particularly there are a number of students this year that have been homeless. Not just that, but also many students find it hard integrating and finding like flatmates. A few of you have mentioned housing, but would how would you solve these issues?
Okay, Chloe, we start with you.
Yeah, my manifesto encompasses mainly the kind of affordability and monetary aspect of housing, so how many students lose their deposits wrongfully at the end of the year, and also how on-campus accommodation, it's quite extortionate and it keeps going up the price ladder, and so how we can work on that to maybe cut rent during vacation time so you only pay for what you use. But I'd be open to explore the other like housing issues that aren't to do with money as well.
Okay, thank you. Sophie?
So firstly, yes, with postgraduates, especially for the past few years, it's been a massive issue that when they've turned up, they've not had anywhere to live at the beginning of their course, which is unacceptable. It's consistently happening, and we need to stop that, and that is one thing I will aim to do completely. Another thing which would be good, I think, with housing, there needs to be an emphasis on finding the right housemates to live with. In the past, I've run a Take Your Time to Sign campaign, which is more about if you enjoy the people you live with, it doesn't really matter if your house is a bit smaller than someone else's because you're going to enjoy your time with them. And that should be the most important thing about living out with them.
Thank you, Sophie. I've got to stop you there. Thank you. Ice-T, over to you.
So yeah, I think affordability is a big issue, and I would just carry on the work that has been already started. I think about the people you live with as well. The way it's done on campus is quite good, at least from my experience, from people I lived with experiences. So I think the kind of improving the platform of putting people together and kind of looking into their interests and their characteristics will help with that.
Okay, thank you. And finally, Tessa.
So honestly, housing is a bit of a gap in my knowledge. So a lot of it would come sort of once I was in the position, but a lot of it would be building on the amazing work done by Ollie and the team with Rent Rants. And also, I totally agree with Sophie. It's hugely about who you're living with and the support that you have if you do end up living with someone or people that you don't get on with. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, any more questions from the audience? We still have time. Just over here, Mike. Yes. Just come over to you now.
So what role do you think that societies play in terms of supporting people, students' mental health, and particularly how would you work with the societies officer in order to do that and make sure that health and well-being, mental health and well-being is really at the fundamental focus of the SU?
Okay, and Sophie, we're starting with you, please.
I think maybe incorporating mental health training in with when you have new society execs, because obviously it's a big issue. With WAS this year, they've had a mental health rep, which I think has been a really positive step forward. It was very contested as well, which I think proves that it's a bigger issue. We need to be having more mental health representation across all of these societies. And I think by doing that, we can support each other more.
Thank you. Ice-T?
I think societies would play a really big role in improving people's mental health. So if people are doing things they love, it's obviously going to only bring them good things. So I think the improving of accessibility of societies and working with execs to, make the societies more accessible and make them open for everyone. I think that is really important.
Okay, thank you very much. Tessa?
I couldn't agree more. Societies and clubs do amazing work for welfare. I was in a terrible, terrible place and I joined RAG and it basically saved me. But what I will say is that the way that they currently operate, particularly for execs, put people under a huge amount of stress, and so more support needs to be given there. And that's where I'd really focus myself.
Wonderful. And finally, Chloe.
Yeah, I want to introduce the kind of welfare advisor aspect to each society and sport club. We have it for E&D, so we should have a representative from the exec whose posts like that's what they're in charge of. Also, building on what Isley said, like they are really good outlets for well-being. So we need more music rehearsal space. We need to make sports more accessible and cheaper, more well-being classes, getting people in.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Well, that is it for the welfare and campaigns. Obviously, you're out the hot seat now, ladies. That's all done. Round of applause, please, to our candidates. Okay. And if you would just like to sort of stay in your seats, in just a minute we will be moving on with the postgraduate officer and the candidates that is going forward for that position. So do stay with us. Okay, we are back now with the question time session. We are moving on to the postgraduate officer. Just a little bit of information about this position. The postgraduate officer is the main point of contact and representation for all Warwick postgraduate students. As such, they'll regularly liaise with the postgraduate course reps and faculty reps. Now, we do just have, as you can see, the one candidate here tonight, Nat Panda. And so, as a result, we start, as we always do, with the opening address. Nat, it's over to you.
Hi, I'm Nat Panda. I'm rerunning to be your postgraduate officer. Over the past 6 months, I've worked tirelessly to improve the life of students here at the University of Warwick. We've had some real wins. For example, weekend and evening opening hours at the Postgraduate Hub and free hot water in the Research Exchange. However, it's clear that there's still many areas of postgraduate life that need improving. I'd just like to talk about 3 of my priorities if I'm elected. So, number 1, fair pay for postgraduates. I will fight to make this happen. It's unbelievable that we're still in a situation where our postgraduate teachers aren't paid for all the hours they actually work, for preparation, for marking, for admin, for email, for the actual teaching. This is unacceptable. If this university can afford to pay its outgoing Vice-Chancellor $92,000, it can afford to value its postgraduate teachers and pay them fairly. Second of all, health services on campus. These are at full capacity. I will fight to make sure that a review of all health services is a priority for this university. They need to review counselling, well-being, and the health centre on campus. We're in a current situation where not all postgraduates can actually register at the health centre on campus. This is completely unacceptable. And finally, accessibility of postgraduate education. It's very expensive, and the university doesn't have an ongoing widening participation strategy. Last year and the year before, they provided £500,000 of bursaries for widening participation at postgraduate level, but they have not committed to do this on an ongoing basis, and there's nothing in place for next year. I'll fight to make sure that these bursaries are available on an annual basis and to make sure they've got a full widening participation strategy at postgraduate level. Please check out the rest of my manifesto online and vote Panda for PG. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nat. So we're going to carry on as we did with the Welfare and Campaigns Officer. We are going to have a selection of questions that have been put together by a team before we open it to the floor. So, Nat, we will begin. Our first question here is, so obviously you've been in this position for the last year, and the question here is, what's new on your manifesto this year that you hadn't thought about or that wasn't on there last year?
That's a good point. So one of the big things I want to do is to introduce a module reporting tool where students can request a more diverse curriculum. So if you have a module and you think this is just the same old literature as always, we want some fresh material, we want people who aren't just old white males, well, this is what we're going to do. It will send an email to your module leader and also to the SU.
Okay, thank you, Nat. This next question, what is your main priority for postgraduate students?
It's a tough one, but I think health services and fair pay for postgraduates are probably the top 2 here. I mean, health services affects everyone here. It's unacceptable that we have a health centre which isn't open to all students on campus. And to wait for a counselling appointment for several weeks at a time, it's just a service which is under-resourced, so it's not fit for purpose in its current state.
Okay, thank you, Nat. Okay, and the next question is, will we see a continuation of things like the postgraduate quiz?
So we have the postgraduate quiz every Tuesday in the graduate space. We're also working closely with the library to put on other events all the time. So one thing which we're committing to, us and the university, is putting on at least one postgraduate event at the end of each term to basically let students have a time to relax. So we had the Christmas event, which was a great success. We've got another one coming up for Easter, and hopefully going to put on some sort of barbecue or fete going on in the summer. So there will be more social events for all postgraduates.
Okay, thank you, Nat. The next question tonight, what services need to be improved for postgraduate students?
Well, of course, the health services, that goes without saying. I've already said it a few times. But also postgraduate accommodation. We've got lets for postgraduates which just don't make sense. So they only last for 39 weeks. Postgraduates come to do their dissertations, and this is when they're asked to move from their accommodation. We wouldn't ask undergraduates to move in the middle of exam time. We shouldn't ask postgraduates to move in the middle of the dissertation write-up.
Okay, thank you, Nat. Okay, next question tonight. What is something about being a postgraduate student undergraduate students may take for granted?
It's a tough one because postgraduates are such a diverse group of students. If you're a PGT student, maybe it's the intensity of your course compared to undergraduate. You start from week one and you just don't stop. And then when everyone else has finished their exams, you have a dissertation to do. If it's PhD, PGR level, then it's basically it's such a long course. It's really hard to relate to that unless you've experienced it.
Okay, thank you, Nat. The next question tonight, what will be your main goal as postgraduate officer for the coming year?
So similar to one of the previous questions, like I said, fair pay for postgraduates is something I've been working on so hard this year, making the case that it's only fair, it's not very radical. All we're asking for is for postgraduates who teach to be paid for the hours they actually work, like most other jobs in life. And this is not a big ask, but it's something that we really do need to fight for and continue to fight for.
Okay, thank you, Nat. Next question tonight is, what is a long-term goal you hope to start that you would like future postgraduate officers to continue?
It's got to be the widening participation at postgraduate level. We have a situation where the university provides about 5 million of bursaries to undergraduates of widening participation and another 2 or 3 million in terms of widening participation activities. At postgraduate level, we had our widening participation bursaries have not been confirmed for this year. That's 500,000 of bursaries we don't have. We're only talking about 500,000 versus 8 million at undergraduate. It's just unacceptable.
Okay, thank you, Nat. Right, so as you have already been in the role for a year, what new ideas can you bring to the position?
Well, I think with each new cohort of students, you hear new problems, new challenges. So one of the big things I was less aware of was the challenge that international students who are coming here are saying that they can't get onto academic English courses. There's not enough resource for these, and they're desperate to be able to go onto these courses and improve their academic English at the beginning of their course so that it can actually benefit from it throughout the course. So there's always new challenges, and I'm sure there'll be some new ones this year. Okay.
Next question tonight. What is a challenge or the main challenge you think you will have to face as postgraduate officer?
It's a good question. I think undertaking the postgraduate review in the Students' Union will be a massive task. I need to make sure that it has a clear focus so it doesn't become too unwieldy. But really understanding the wide range of postgraduates here is essential to this review. We've got distance learners, we've got part-time, we've got mature, we've got all sorts. We really need to understand this in order to do with the review.
Okay, thank you, Nat. The next question: what is the main thing you can bring to the SU?
I say it's my passion for improving postgraduate life. I truly believe that postgraduates are overlooked, aren't remembered enough, and are sometimes thought that it can just be put in the corner. That's just something which I will battle and I will fight to improve and basically to make sure that every meeting I'm in, postgraduates are remembered.
Okay. What is a postgraduate student issue that needs to be brought to light more?
I think it really is the housing issue. It's unbelievable, I think, to undergraduates, the concept that you might have students coming here who don't actually have any housing. And if you're being asked to do your study whilst you're living in temporary housing and you're doing your inductions, it's just, at the same time, you need to register a bank account, you need to register at the health centre. It's all these things all happening at once. Postgraduate housing accommodation is a massive issue.
Okay, we're about to have the final question from our set questions. If you have any questions that you would like to ask the postgraduate officer, please do think of them now and we'll come through the audience to get as many of them as we can. Okay, Nat, last question from the set questions here. What do you think is the hardest part of the postgraduate officer position from what you know from last year's experience?
It's definitely balancing priorities. You sit on a lot of committees, you meet with many students, you're just aware of so many different problems that need improving, and trying to do all of them at once is a real challenge. So it's a matter of prioritising and being able to work efficiently on all the tasks that you want to do. And there's always going to be a trade-off, but it's making sure that you set your priorities and justify why these are your priorities.
Okay, thank you very much, Nat. Okay, so we turn to the floor. If you do have a question for Nat, Could you pop your hands up now, please? Okay, Mike, if we just sort of start over there. Thank you very much. Okay, your question, sir.
So, as an undergraduate student, I'm obviously eligible to vote for you as well. So, what would you say to undergraduate students as to why they should vote for you?
Well, a lot of students actually go on to do postgraduate study. So if they vote for me now, I can improve things. And by the time it actually comes around to them studying, if they're studying here, well, it's going to have a better time. So that's one reason. The other reason is some of the issues that I'm focusing on actually cross both undergraduate and postgraduate study. For example, health services on campus, that covers everyone. That's a massive deal for undergrads and postgraduates. And the diversifying our curriculum, again, that's not just postgraduate specific.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. The chap over there in the back in the red sofa.
Hi, Nat. I was just wondering about your specific ideas on how to increase postgraduate engagement in societies. In particular, at the start of this year, there was the postgraduate orientation event in the first week, in week 0, in the copper rooms, and just the organisation of it. The societies were left to their own devices, and there was no stewards at all in the copper rooms for that entire event. People were just flowing in and out, and there was no control of the numbers in there. I just wanted to know if you had any insight into how you could improve that situation next year.
Okay, well, I think there are a couple of things here. One is communicating to postgraduate students when they arrive that finding something extracurricular to do should be part of what they plan in their first week, to make sure they've got that healthy balance between work and doing other things. So society should definitely be pivotal there. The second thing is trying to work with societies to actually get them to understand postgraduate needs better. So putting on events in the evenings, not just Wednesday afternoons when postgraduates often have lectures. All sorts of things like that we can work with postgraduate societies to do.
Thank you very much there, Nat. Right, any other questions from the floor? Yes, over there in the grey jumper.
Last year you had a 24-hour library in your manifesto, and this year you haven't. Do you think it's an impossibility now?
I certainly don't think it's an impossibility. I didn't put it in so I could put something fresh in, but also because I think we're on the way to moving towards 24-hour library. We don't know when it's going to come, but I think it's inevitable that we will get it eventually. We've made the case, we've addressed all the concerns, so now it's just a matter of the university having to make the judgment call on whether it's going to put its money where its mouth is and where students actually want the resources put, which is a 24-hour library.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more questions from the floor? Nope. Okay, well, I think if there are no more questions from the floor, that sort of brings to a close this section. So, Nat Panda, ladies and gentlemen. And just to note, do stay in your seats because just in a few minutes' time, we'll just get it set up. We move on to the education officer. Okay, we move on to the next position tonight, which is going to be Education Officer. So we have our 4 prospective candidates. We have Terence, Cindy, Hope and James. So good evening to them. Just a little bit of information about this position. The Education Officer sort of is the main point of contact within the SU for all students on academic-related matters and concerns. The role entails electing, training and regularly liaising with course reps on SSLCs and faculty reps as well, and they'll be an integral part of the SU Education Exec as well as a full trustee of the SU. Okay, so we're going to start as we have done so far with opening statements. Terence, over to you.
Hi, my name is Terence, and I'm the current Postgraduate Science Faculty Officer. My role sits on the Board of Graduates Committee, and I'm representing the voice of approximately 4,500 postgraduate science postgrad students. And I'm also part of the exec team at the University Symphony Orchestra. As the only postgraduate candidate running for this education officer position, I have a lot to offer. Apart from 2 master's degrees, which really reflect on my general interest in higher education, my involvement in the Stay Together campaign during the Scottish referendum played a pivotal role in shaping the future of our education. My professional and managerial experience in the service industry equipped me with knowledge and experience in leading and inspiring people the process, rather than just managing for the final result. I'm also experienced in drafting policy proposals and negotiating terms with the director inside the boardroom. I believe that education is not just about the final result. I place high value on the process. I believe quality, not quantity. Evidenced by my campaign strategies, we anticipate that many candidates will simply mass-produce banners and carry out the same messages all again and again, and I see things differently. When we initialize a policy proposal, we have to consider a wide range of different interest groups. For instance, we have identified with the university green initiatives, and as such, we have decided to reduce our campaign impact on the environment. The major concern is that we don't have enough study space. We have a learning grid, but it's not a quite supervised study area. Therefore, students are usually forced to stay in the bedroom late and unable to access to key resources such as books and specialized computer softwares. The lack of transparency in essay and exam marking process and the availability of feedback is also problematic. The variation of different feedback systems between departments affects the overall experience at work. Given my professional experience and years of higher education experience, I've decided to utilize my skills to serve you. Okay.
Okay. Cindy.
Hi, I'm Cindy. I'm a final year politics and international studies student. I'm the current social sciences faculty rep, and I also sit on the National Executive Committee of the National Union of Students, representing 8 million students in the UK. So I've already worked on the 24-hour library campaign and spearheaded the individual exam feedback campaign. I'm now running to be your education officer because there is so much more that I want to do. You might have noticed that I'm one of the few candidates to upload a plain text version of my manifesto, and that's because I really care about access. If I'm elected, I want to work with a disabled students officer to create an accessible campus map to make sure that societies and students groups book accessible rooms when they hold events on campus. I also want to continue to work on the recorded lecture campaign because this is so vital for students with disabilities, or even if you just miss a lecture. Another thing I really care about is mental health. I'm an ex-Nightline volunteer and was an exec member. And if I'm elected, I want to work to roll out pastoral care training to personal tutors, including how to signpost and adequately support students with mental health issues. I also want to work to get the university to subsidise doctors' notes fees, which can weigh quite heavily on students, but are necessary for essay extensions. I want to work on finding more study space on campus. We all know that study space is currently inadequate, so I want to work to publicise which rooms are empty on campus so students can convert these into study spaces, and also make sure that new study spaces that are being built are fit for purpose. I want to introduce a wider range of lower cap modules so that students can experience loads of different faculties and loads of different subjects and try out a wide range of things. And I also want to campaign to improve coordination between joint degree programs and improve coordination between them. And this is something that I've already done by helping to set up the SSLC Joint Degree Forum. Lastly, as you may have noticed, Warwick is quite corporate, so I want to work to introduce an ethical careers fair with a wider range of sectors represented. So check out my manifesto at warwicksu.com.
Thank you, Cindy. I have to stop you there, but thank you very much. Okay, and we move on to Hope.
Sorry, I'm going to stand. Our education system is under attack. On a campus level, poverty and mental health problems are soaring. Thousands of students are denied study space on campus, and too often the concerns of marginalised students are being ignored. On a national level, the government is planning to roll out drastic HE reforms which map out the full marketisation of our education system, one where students will be nothing more than consumers and universities will be run like businesses instead of places of learning. This is why we need students' unions and SU officers to stand up and fight, not just for the rights of students, but for the future of education itself. That's why I'm running to be your next education officer. Over the last 2 years, I've had experience as an education activist both on a campus and a national level, and I believe passionately in fighting for an education system which is free, liberated, and accessible to all. As your education officer, I will fight to cut out hidden costs. I'll push for free printed credits for all students, as well as more online resources and reduced library fines. I'll fight for better mental health support in the tutor system, earlier timetable releases for both personal and exam timetables, as well as crucial increased study space. I'll take a strong stand against the exploitation of international students and push for increased bursaries for low-income students, as well as comprehensive financial support for disabled students. And I'll fight for a system which opposes all forms of oppression, including the racist and Islamophobic prevent agenda, as well as pushing for a liberated curriculum. We need to start putting the interests and well-being of students first, and we need officers who will relentlessly fight for that vision. So vote Hope #1 for Education Officer this week. Thank you.
Thank you very much there to Hope, and we finally, James.
Hi, I'm James. I'm currently a member of the Education Exec. I helped to set up the SSLC working group this year, and I've also been a chair of the History SSLC in my second year, also a final year history student. There is a problem at the University of Warwick, and most of it is down to the lack of harmonisation between the faculties and the university. It's pretty clear when looking at joint degrees that the university has absolutely no idea in how to deal with the organisation of communication between departments. The university needs a complete review of how joint degrees are currently done in order to make sure that joint degrees actually work for students and that they aren't just shifted around because of organisational issues. The SSLC system also needs deep reform. There's lots of disparity between SSLCs across courses, and there needs to be equity at this level. SSLCs are one of the most important resources for the university to actively engage with students on how their courses are going, but some departments just aren't as good at dealing with this than others. If you elect me as your next education officer, I will reintroduce second-hand book sales at the university, SU, and also encourage all academic faculty societies to do second-hand book sales too. I believe that faculty societies, as representatives of their faculties, should have more integration within their faculties and also receive more funding from the SU to help deal with particular issues. I believe that personal tutors need reform as well. The welfare issue that has come up is a massive one, and in order to deal with this adequately, I believe that not just that personal tutors need retraining, I believe that personal tutors should be renamed to academic tutors, and there should be at least one welfare tutor in each department to deal with these very specific issues that some personal tutors might not be able to deal with as well as others. Vote for James, make the change, let's sort out the university, let's harmonise the faculty and the SU, make the change, vote for James.
Thank you very much. Okay, so they are the opening addresses from our 4 prospective candidates. So we're going to go once again to the sort of set questions that have been prepared. If you do have any questions for our candidates, do sort of note them down and remember them. We will come back, obviously, to the floor a little bit later on. So we'll start with our first question, and that is, how do you plan on building upon what the previous education officer has done in the last year? And Terence, we start with you.
So I've personally spoken to Charlie before, and I've asked him, Charlie, so after you retire this year, what is the one thing that you want me to do next year? And one thing that we identify is the study space crisis. Therefore, my priority will be fighting for a 24/7 library, and you need someone strong to speak up for you in the bottom.
Very much, Terence. Cindy.
you're probably going to hear this answer 3 times over, but we're all on the well, 3 of us are on the education exec, so we've been quite closely involved in a lot of the campaigns that have been going on, and we know what's progressing and what's likely to need more work over the next year. So I think it would be fairly easy for us to build on the work that's been done by the current education officer.
Thank you very much. Hope.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to build on the work of Charlie in terms of the 24-hour library and the crucial recorded lectures, which are so fundamental for disabled students and students with mental health. But me and Charlie have also been involved in working with UCU on this campus to fight against the green paper, i.e. the dangerous HE reforms that are coming in, and I will definitely push to continue that next year.
And finally, James.
So working with Charlie on the education exec, the 24/7 library, I think, is probably going to happen. It seems inevitable. Recorded lectures as well, very positive. I think that in order to move forward and build on what Charlie's done, we need to seriously consider how we can utilise study spaces before any considerations of a second library are put forward.
Okay, thank you very much, James. Right, our next question. Do you think that you have the relevant experience to deal with the other responsibilities that are required for a sabbatical officer, for example, being a trustee? And we start with Cindy.
I mean, do you mean specifically for trustee, or, well, in general, as I mentioned before, I've dealt with mental health. I am an ex-Nightline volunteer, so I've dealt with that side of things before, so I feel like I could be adequately equipped to signpost and help students if they're in distress. And I guess confidentiality would also be another one that would be quite important, and I think I've demonstrated that in a range of roles.
Thank you very much, Cindy. Hope.
Yep, I'm the current SU Physics and Formal Sciences faculty rep, so I sit on numerous committees this year, which has been very insightful into how the university works. I have a very clear line on management. I will work with management to the extent that it benefits students. I will always put students first, and I'm very passionate about that, so I will do that. I will endeavour to do that in whatever situation I work with the university management.
Okay, thank you very much, Hope. James?
So being on the education exec and also having an in-depth knowledge of how the student union works and how it interacts with the university, I will make sure that that in my role as a trustee, that the students are put forward first in all dealings with the university, and that, yeah.
Thank you very much, James. And finally, Terence.
I think rather than managing trustees, I would use the word leading. As well, basically, you know my education experience, 2 masters. I mean, I have 5-6 years in higher education. But one thing that I think differentiates between me and other candidates is my professional experience. So I was a manager at Costa Coffee at Edinburgh Airport. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, our next question, a simple one but an important one. Why do you want to be the education officer? And we start with Hope.
Okay, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I believe so passionately in fighting for an education system which is free, liberated and accessible to all. Pretty much with my life, all I do is education activism on both a local and a national level, and I just want to carry on doing that. I'm already doing it right now, so I may as well think of how much I could do in a full-time job, so that's why I want to do it. I want to make a change.
Thank you very much, Hope. James?
Quite simply, I love Warwick University. It's been my life these past few years, and I want to give something back to it. Having been at this university for 3 years, I've seen some of the problems, and it frustrates me that year on year some of them aren't addressed. So I want to run for the education role so that I can actually deal with some of these issues that are really affecting students, particularly with regards to their response to the NSS results and dealing with mental well-being.
Thank you very much, James. Terence?
So people always talk about Warwick University, but for me, I've experienced 4 different educational systems, and I've experienced the ins and outs of different systems, and I understand what we want as students. I'm an international student, and I understand what we want as a postgraduate international student. I've also experienced undergrad as well, so I understand and I've experienced your concerns.
Thank you very much, Terence. And finally, Cindy.
So this year I've been a faculty rep, and last year I was a liberation officer. And I do so much in my spare time, and it really does burn me out. But I keep doing it because I really, really care, because I really do want to make a change and I want to help students. And so I'm running for this because I feel like if this was my full-time job and I was paid to do it and I had nothing else to do, I could make so much more of an impact. And that's essentially why I want to run.
Thank you very much, Cindy. Okay, the next question tonight. How do you plan to revamp the careers service to create more options? Okay, and that's how do you plan to revamp the career service to create more options? And we start with James.
So currently the problem with the career service is that it's too distant to most students, and also most of the career service advice that is given is mainly due to the connections that the people at the career service themselves have. I think that a lot of the problem with the current system is that they're very heavily finance-based, and not everyone at Warwick wants to go into the finance industry. I think that the best way to tackle this will be to harmonise the career service within the faculties, bring it closer to home, and make sure from year one that people are getting the support from the career service rather than rushing it through years 2 and 3.
Thank you very much, James. Terence.
So I realized that we have a very good career service, but we don't have enough dedicated resources for final year students. We're all here after 3 years. We want a job at the end, and we don't have enough resources to understand. For some students in science, they don't have enough dedicated resources for them to understand the pathway of their inspiration. Therefore, my priority is to dedicate enough resources. It's actually my manifesto to have like a career planning module for final year students, so they will understand well equipped, they will have the knowledge to find jobs.
Thank you very much, Terence. Cindy.
So I've actually worked with the career service before. So in second year, when I did the International Development Summit, we actually worked with them to host a development careers event, and it was really well attended. So I think actually the resources are there, but they're so far hidden away that people don't go to them unless they know exactly who they're supposed to approach. So I think we need to be signposting people better, and also dedicating more resources to it and telling people where to go.
Thank you very much, Cindy. And finally, Hope.
Yeah, I would reiterate the call for more options in terms of a, diverse careers service, as many of the other candidates have said. But I also think it's important to actually make sure we're facilitating placements, internships, and jobs for students, because that's why I'm fighting for earlier timetable releases, like earlier exam timetable releases. Because at the moment, so many students are saying to me that they're getting in the way of their jobs, placements, internships in the summer, and that's unacceptable. We need to make sure that we're facilitating opportunities for students.
Thank you very much, Hope. Okay, our next question tonight. The campaign for a 24-hour library has been going on for a long time. What do you plan on adding to the debate that's different? And we start with Terence.
So basically, we have recently drafted a 24/7 library proposal, and it's good. But I've identified that, and I've given Charlie's feedback here. The proposal is not good enough in the way that we don't have a risk assessment. Therefore, when you go to the board, they can attack you on your weaknesses on the proposal. So what I can offer is based on my proposal drafting experience. I can offer you a really good proposal that will push through to a 24/7 library by the end of next academic year.
Thank you very much, Terence. Cindy?
So the 24-hour library campaign, it looks like it might actually be successful, and we might get the outcome that we've been campaigning for so long. So I'll be honest, if it doesn't go through, then we'll have to re-look at the campaign and look at ways that we can relaunch it and make it different. That's not really something I thought about in depth, because I had presented the paper to the board of the Faculty of Social Sciences, and they did support it. So it'll be interesting to see the outcome and then talk about strategy from there.
Okay, thank you very much, Cindy. Hope?
Yeah, so the issue that I was stressing when I presented this paper to various committees that I sit on is that different students have completely different studying habits, and we should respect that and facilitate that. And particularly 24-hour opening hours in the library are so crucial for mature students that may have children and caring responsibilities, and students also have part-time jobs when they're having to juggle their different responsibilities. And the people in the committees seem very receptive to that idea. So it's all about facilitating the different needs of the diverse range of students on campus.
Thank you very much, Hope. And finally, James.
So, again, as I said before, the 24/7 library is likely to come about, having gone to the Senate committee recently. The one thing I would add is that the whole point of the 24/7 library is to make it accessible to students. But the problem ultimately is that students in Leamington don't have access to this, even if the 24/7 library is carried out. There are no facilities for them in Leamington to differentiate between the study space that they have at home and the study space that they have at the university.
Okay, thank you very much, James. Okay, we're going to have one final question now, so we are about to open it up to the audience again. So if you do have any questions, we'll be coming to you very, very shortly. Okay, last question from here. Getting individual feedback for students has been an aim of many previous sabbatical officers. What do you plan to do differently to achieve it? And we start with Cindy.
So I actually spearheaded the campaign for the individual exam feedback campaign last year, and I released an article in the board talking about my experiences with individual exam feedback, because PACE is one of the few departments to actually give it. But again, I think we need to be very careful about who's marking the papers and not putting too much demand on the postgraduates who end up marking it. So that's something that I would really stress. It's a fine balance to be struck.
Thank you very much. Cindy, Hope.
Yeah, I think part of the problem with exam feedback is inconsistency. So you can have some people that might get great feedback from a lecturer and some people that might not, and there's not necessarily any specific reason for that. I would echo what Cindy said in the sense that we need to make sure that our staff are actually paid well enough to be able to give this good feedback. It's a contradiction to not give staff fair pay for the hours that they do and also expect higher quality feedback. So I think that's such a key fundamental part of making sure that students get the feedback that they deserve, making sure that staff are paid properly.
Thank you very much, Hope. James?
In terms of feedback, I think that the problem towards getting a standardised feedback across the curriculum is that they're under-resourced. They're under-resourced, and if we want to have standardised feedback, we have to work with the departments to come to an equitable solution rather than simply saying we must have a very standardised set of feedback for all modules.
Thank you very much, James. And finally, Terence.
And obviously, based on my past experience, not just Warwick University, but other high institutions as well, feedback is a major issue because lecturers and examiners, they don't have enough time to mark papers. And one thing that we can do, apart from standardization, is continuously improve the performance target. So we let people understand what they can achieve and what is achievable, so we can implement different strategies to tackle this issue.
Terence, right, we now open the floor. The questions from the floor, please. So if you do have any questions, if you pop your hand up and we will try and come to you. If we start down the front, just the lady here in the glasses. Thank you, Mike.
Hi, I have a question to James. I read your manifesto and you said that you kind of mentioned the green paper, but there was no mention on prevent, and I wanted to know why, seeing as I said there's no mention of prevent in your manifesto. I just wanted to know why, seeing as it seems so crucial to academic freedom within education and also the welfare of students during their degree. So that's my question.
So is the question on prevent?
Yeah.
Okay. My personal opinion on prevent is that it is racist. It is, first of all, impractical as well as a government policy. So all it does is alienate the people that work at the university. In terms of the position that I have, Warwick Anti-Racism and lots of other people on the panel have done fantastic work towards actually taking that to the university.
Okay, thank you very much. Pop your hands back up. If we just have the gentleman there in the blue coat. Thank you.
Hi. So it's been touched upon before, but the government are bringing in brutal attacks on both further education and higher education, particularly with the Green Paper. And this necessitates a strong response from students and thus students' unions and particularly education officers. What experience and history do the candidates have in organising and mobilising students on education-related issues?
Okay, and we will start with Hope on this question.
Yes, so I've been campaigning a lot on this in the last few months. And like I mentioned earlier, I've worked with Charlie to facilitate meetings between staff and students who are passionate about fighting against education. We should be very clear that these are the worst attacks to education that we've seen in decades. And now is the time when we need to fight for education. And so I would continue to facilitate these. I would continue to facilitate these meetings and make sure that I put everything I have into fighting against the Green Paper. I think it's very, very dangerous, and it must be fought against.
Okay, thank you, Hope. James?
So being on the History SSLC, a lot of the issues that we dealt with there was about mobilising student support to get something across. I believe that with the experience that I have there, I can help to bring together the various communities on campus to help deal with a common cause, and fighting the Green Paper is one of those that I intend to make my main points.
Okay, thank you very much, James. Terence?
And obviously we're talking about Green Paper here. And the thing is that we're not trying to, we've been as an education officer, we are here to improve the process, our education process, wanting for money. We're not here to try to save the world. When you talk about Green Paper, it's like a national policy. Obviously, I can contribute toward tackling the issues, but at the end of the day, my priority and my mind, my heart set with the union.
Okay, thank you very much, Terence. And finally, Cindy.
Yeah, so I supported work on this through the education exec, but also through the NUS. So they had campaigns like TEF Off and Quality Doesn't Grow on Fees. And I think they're really great campaigns that we should bring to Warwick SU.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, another question. We'll go to the gentleman in the grey jumper there.
Sometimes working at university can get really stressful, a lot of deadlines and a lot of work to fulfill. What are you going to do to promote a balance between work and also leisure?
Okay, and we start with James on that one, please.
So one of the policies I'm quite keen on is stopping creeping lectures on Wednesday. There is currently no guarantee for postgraduate students to have work study time free on Wednesday afternoons too. I'd be very much encouraged that through the university. I think that that should be standard across undergraduates and postgraduates. In terms of the other areas, I believe that places like Nightline are also very helpful in giving advice towards. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, James. Terence?
So obviously Wednesday or Saturday morning lectures is one issue that us postgraduates have experienced a lot in the past, and it's actually quite difficult given the intensity of a postgraduate talk degree. I mean, my module is very intensive. So what we can do is that we may have an intense module week, but then the next week then we have some free time to write our essay and do some sport, and that's the current practice. And obviously I will try my best to fight for Wednesday lecture off, but in terms of practicality, it's very difficult.
Okay, Cindy?
So I'd work quite closely with the welfare officer, ensure that personal tutors get welfare trained so that they are equipped to help students out. Obviously I have my background in mental health as well, so I'd quite like to be able to support students in that. And another campaign that I really liked is the Feel Good campaign that the SU runs in Term 3, so that's something that I would work to continue.
Okay, and finally, Hope.
Yeah, I would reiterate that we definitely need a complete overhaul of the training that personal tutors get in terms of mental health problems. There isn't enough work done. I would want to facilitate like departmental workshops so that students are fully aware of the facilities available both inside and outside the university. But also, again, earlier timetable releases will help with this, because with earlier timetable releases, people are less stressed. People can plan their lives, plan their extracurricular activities, all the stuff outside of study much more easily. So I think earlier timetable releases is a very important part of the balance there.
Okay, we have time for just one more question from the audience, and let's go to the chap in the suit down here, please.
Thanks. As education officer, one of the things I found is just how difficult getting change is through the university because of the bureaucracy and also a lack of resources that you have as an officer. So what is the one thing, if you had to choose, that you want to get out of your time as education officer?
Okay, we start with Terence, please.
The reason of why I'm going to become the education officer is because I realize education is so important to us. We're here as students, we decide to come over here to be educated. We're here for the process, not just for degree qualifications. Therefore, one thing that I will do is that I will improve your experience as a whole at university.
Okay, thank you, Terence. Cindy?
I think if I could get the kind of mental health and pastoral care training rolled out to personal tutors that, like I've outlined in my manifesto, if I managed to achieve that by the end of the year, I would leave very happy, because I think so many students are let down by that, and it's so important. So yeah, that's the one thing I would like to achieve.
Thank you very much, Cindy. Hope?
So I would say that more study space is absolutely crucial, but if I had to pick one thing, for me it would probably be liberated curriculum, because I just think it's so fundamentally important to acknowledge the needs and concerns of all the marginalised groups on campus. And I think, yeah, we need to do better, and we need to represent all of our students properly. So it would be that.
Okay, thank you very much, Hope. And finally, James.
If I had to prioritise one of the many things that I've got, I think it would have to be joint degrees, to be honest. I think that many of the problems that come out of welfare, stress, a lack of communication between departments, not being able to switch modules, lack of feedback, the confusion that can be caused between the lack of communication between departments, like that is something that I fundamentally believe, looking at the NSS results, that like the university would actually, A, be motivated to change, but actually B, we could actually really positively do something about it.
Thank you, James. We have to stop there. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your questions, and a round of applause for our candidates, for Terence, for Cindy, for Hope, and for James. Thank you very much, guys. Okay, we are coming into the last half an hour. We have one last position to look at tonight, and that is sports officer, so do stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to take your seats, we will begin with the sports officer position. Okay, so we'll move on to the sports officer position. We've got two prospective candidates here. Just a little bit on the sports officer position. It's the public face of student sport on campus, and in this role will actively engage with all student clubs and the student community in the overall promotion of sport and healthy activity. So we've got our two candidates here tonight. We've got Cece and we've got Ted. Right, we are going to begin with opening statements. So we've got 2 minutes again. Cece, we'll begin with you.
Hi everyone, thanks for being here tonight. I'm Cecilia, I'm your current sports exec chair. Over my time at Warwick, I've been a member of over 10 different sports clubs, including taking on exec roles such as social sec, and I'm currently tour sec of Dodge. What I will do for you, let's cut to the chase. If you elect me, I will promise to make Warwick sport more transparent, clearly communicate about issues such as kit, organise sponsorship workshops for our clubs, and introduce centralised payment for sport fair transactions with QR codes. So what do I stand for? Diversity. 1. This is a twofold point. The diverse range of sports I've participated in makes me an effective representative of you as a sporting community. And secondly, I want to see everyone, every gender, ethnic group and sexuality represented in sport. 2. Inclusivity. Sport is for all. I will continue and expand on the This Girl Can and Kick Homophobia Out campaigns, promote disability awareness and female participation in sport, especially to improve men-to-women ratios in our clubs. 4, connectivity. I'll connect the sports clubs by running president meetings between all clubs, the first of which I've already organised and run myself, which was a success. For example, the president of Aikido and I will hopefully be organising an inter-club martial arts performance on the piazza in the summer as a result of the meeting. Equality between all genders and between bucks and non-buck sports. Without further ado, I say to you, put the CC in success and vote number 1 CC for Sports 2016. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cece. Okay, Ted, over to you.
Thanks. So as chairman of the Rugby Club, the insight and experience I've gained from actually running one of the biggest male sports clubs on campus is why I wanted to run for sports officer. I've identified so many faults that are in the SU, despite the great job that Alex has done in promoting sports itself. Number 1 is kit. I know it's been massive for all of you, all of the societies. The relationship with Speed 1 and BLK. I wanted to increase the communication of especially Speed 1 and to create some accountability of them. This would come in the form of yearly reviews so we could negotiate on price and whatever, because if there's not an actual competition, then there needs to be some room for negotiation with a sole supplier. Number 2 is recruitment, and recruitment's massive. We're never going to compete with the likes of Loughborough, Bath, Durham if we don't start getting some awareness within senior management about recruitment and then increasing the funding there. This comes in the form of better scholarships. If any of you have actually looked at the scholarships that Warwick Sport offer, they are measly. There is no point doing them, and the actual people that could apply and actually be successful in applying for any sort of scholarship are competing at too high a level to actually be part of the sports clubs at university. Secondly, I wanted to try and bring in freshers in sort of week 0, so that they could come into your pre-season and we could hit the ground running. All the other universities have a week or 2 on us in pre-season just because their term starts like 2 weeks earlier. Another one was leniency in admission officers. This has happened for us and hockey. For us, the guy was called Joe. He was in the WAS Academy, and it could have made the difference between promotion and relegation for anyone. Oh, I'm out of time already. And Harry Martin for hockey, but I've got lots more.
Thank you. Cheers. Thank you, Ted. Round of applause, please. Okay, so we'll continue how we have with all the sections. So we've got our set questions now, and then in a little bit we'll open it to the floor. So the first question tonight will be, what will be your main priority as sports officer? And we start with Cece.
Thank you. My main priority as sports officer is to make Warwick Sport inclusive for everyone. And for those clubs with lower memberships, I'll create recruitment officer roles to boost those memberships and make sure no club ever has to shut down. I will also be a representative for students as much as I can be and have an open door policy so that anyone can come and see me and find my support at any time.
Thank you very much, Cece. And Ted.
CC makes a very good point, actually. Warwick's planning to be the most active university by 2020, and this is something that I really want to work on. So, active leagues. We ran an active league in the summer. I was a summer activator for a rugby league touch tournament. About 7 people turned up. Table tennis, the same things happened. No one turned up. They had to cancel their active league. We need to get more people involved at sport, and there's a general apathy around the attitude to sport at Warwick, which needs to change.
Thank you very much, Ted. Okay, our next question tonight will be, is what will you do to promote sport for disabled students? And Ted, we're going to start with you, please.
So to support sports for disabled students, I've actually already included it in my manifesto. The new sports centre needs to include either lifts or a downstairs gym. Everyone needs to be active on campus, and I don't see why disabled people can't actually be active and use the gym. Also, I was planning on bringing in more focus to smaller clubs that aren't aware. Well, smaller clubs, but clubs that don't have enough focus. So, I mean, I'd bring that in as well. So.
Thank you, Ted. And same question to you, Cece.
Yep, so I've already spoken to Jenny Wheeler, and I think it's about sitting down with the people that represent that role. So, disability officer, I would speak to her, and I would make sure that I could do everything in my power to provide anything that they said was needed. Yeah, sorry, I'm going to run out of time.
That's fine. Thank you, Cece. Okay, next question tonight. How will you ensure the welfare of sport teams, for example, against homophobic harassment? And Cece, we start with you, please.
So with Alex, we've run the Kick Homophobia Out of Sport campaign within the exec. So we told all of the social sex to wear rainbow laces. You might have seen it at Pop. I would expand and develop that and keep on running those kind of campaigns, not just 1, but 5. Why not more? And promote awareness myself as sports officer.
Thank you, Cece. And Ted, the same question to you.
Yeah, we actually have a few LGBT members in our club, and they're open and it's safe. One of the things I would say about LGBT people is they don't want to be treated any differently than anyone else. I don't see what the big thing is about about pointing people out that might be LGBT. However, I do back the Rainbow Lace campaign. I've still got them on my boots, and yeah, I'd be happy to create more awareness for LGBT sports. Sorry.
Thank you, Ted. Okay, next question. How will you improve varsity? And Ted, we're going to start with you on this one, please.
How I would improve varsity, I think it needs to be even more in your face. It's been in your face this season, and you can't get away from it. That needs to be the thing. We need to get more people down that wouldn't be included in sports initially. So we want to, I was thinking maybe temporary stands. I don't know how feasible that is, but temporary stands at, say, the football, the hockey, and make some of the again smaller sports a bigger event.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you, Ted. And Cece, same question.
I think that's simple. Promotion, early, fast, massive, and also, all my love to you, Alex, but I definitely practice putting the putt in the goal. And yeah, basically make it the absolute focus of campus so that no one can think of anything but varsity when I'm a sports officer.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question. How will you ensure more integration and inclusion in sports clubs? And Cece, we start with you, please, on that one.
Yep, so I would basically, with the recruitment officer roles, I'd have execs specifically there to bring in freshers, to break down any barriers that would stop someone participating in sport, that maybe they haven't done it before. Tell them that that's okay, that we'll teach them that that's fine. And basically having female participation and support for exec structures, particularly in those thinking of
Thank you, Cece. And Ted, the same question, please.
Yeah, so this is one of my manifesto points. The accessibility to sport here isn't that great. Something that could work is we could run a sort of a trial session. So you could be with a club for a few weeks, like a membership with a club for a few weeks, then more taster sessions, and people then get a taste for the club, they get a taste for the social aspects, and they want to be involved even more. I know after my first sort of social and my first training session, I just couldn't wait to get involved even more.
Okay, thank you very much, Ted. Okay, next question. How will you aim to appeal to postgraduate students, and what will you do to encourage postgraduate participation? Ted, we start with you.
So another manifesto point, but it's been left out of the online one because it was an older version. But you can see it on my Facebook page. Postgrad Summer League. So lots of different sports, badminton, tennis, football, anything you can name. The postgrads are struggling to do anything in dissertations while all the undergraduate clubs are away for the summer. So that'd be something that'd be great. Make it social, make it non-competitive, and get everyone involved.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ted. And Cece?
So, as a postgraduate myself, doing a master's in political philosophy, I get it. For postgrads, if you haven't been doing a lot of sport, it is hard to get involved in. But as knowing them myself and as being a natural kind of organizer and someone who likes to make people feel included, I would invite them in. When I was running Racket Circle for badminton, squash, table tennis and tennis, it was 100 people. I would make them feel welcome.
Okay,
in any way possible.
Thank you very much, Cece. Okay, next question. What will you do to encourage clubs to work with one another? And Cece, we start with you.
So I think communication is key. In running the president meetings that I set up, clubs can work together, they can swap facility bookings, they can understand what's going on, they can find support within each other. I mean, the martial arts clubs are now forming a proper inter-club social, and basically getting them to meet each other. That's all you need. You need face-to-face communication, not Facebook groups.
Okay,
and that's
to
what I
stop
do.
you there. Thank you very much, Cece. And Ted, the same question to you.
Another manifesto point in mine. It's like a plan of the questions. I wanted to include a campus community, part of the sports mark scheme. So if other clubs go as a club and go and support another club at their fixture, then they get rewarded with points to do it. So that'd increase clubs massively. And then if we also at Cryfield, the pavilion's out of use. There's a bar upstairs. Just get people in, get a bar staff on, and all the clubs can go in after the games and socialise.
Okay, thank you very much, Ted. Okay, next question. Will we ever have a lecture-free Wednesday? Ted, start with you.
Not in the sciences, I don't think. But I think that lecture-free Wednesdays need to happen, especially if a team will be competing at the level we want it to in the Prem. It's got to happen because teams will be travelling away, and the nature of this university is that it's very academic. People want to go to the lectures. Why can't we record them for Wednesdays especially, and every other day? I mean, I've missed loads of lectures and record them all, catch them up online.
Okay, thank you very much, Ted. And Cece, same question to you.
I think obviously that depends on each department, and as you know, sports officer, you can't speak for all of academic departments, but you don't need necessarily just lecture free. You can get them recorded, and you would push for that to happen rather than say you can't have lectures on a Wednesday. You get them recorded, you push for that and make them understand that that's what we need to be a good sporting university, to compete and take this to a high level.
Thank you, Cece. Thank you very much. Okay, that's the set questions done, so we are now going to open it to the floor. So if you do have a question for our two candidates, pop your hands up now and we'll come round to you. We'll start with you there, sir, with the camera. Yep.
I have a question for the candidates. What past experience do you have? I mean, I'd be interested to know more about past experience you have with sports societies, for example, exec positions, leadership roles, that kind of thing. Thanks.
Okay, so past experience in sports societies. Ted, we start with you, please.
I've been very much a one club man, just because rugby takes up so much time. I've given my entire university life to it. However, I have been involved in academic societies, so the chemistry SSLC. Last year, I was an active member. I got elected again on that. Third team captain of the rugby club, freshers rep of the rugby club. I know what people. I've got a lot of experience with talking to people and asking what they want, so I can try and represent that.
Thank you, Ted. Cece, the same question.
So I'm very not a one-club woman. I've done athletics, table tennis, ski. I've gone on every ski tour. I've done riding since I was 4. I do surfing. I mean, I compete for the first team in dodgeball. I've graded up to yellow belt in karate, doing my green belt soon. And basically, throughout my time at Warwick, I've been involved in so many sports. That's what I love. I love, involvement in all of them, to be honest.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more questions from the audience? Put your hands up. Just the chap down here in the glasses, please. Thank you, Mike.
So this year, Alex and George have had a great relationship in terms of how they work together. So I wanted to ask both candidates as to how they would work with the Societies Officer in creating an all-round university experience for the students, both undergraduates and postgraduates.
Okay, so working with the Societies Officer for an all-round experience with undergraduate and postgraduates. Cece, we're going to start with you, please.
So as sports committee chair, I sit on student council. I've known George fairly well this year. We're going to the Amazon together on a fundraising trip. I mean, it's just about making those links, making those connections. I'm not someone who's scared to talk to someone about something, sit down, have a coffee, have a meeting. If I think something needs to be done, I'll do it. And I'm happy to make those links and forge those connections. That's all you need.
Okay, thank you, Cece. And Ted, the same question?
A constant stream of communication with the Societies Officer, but sometimes, or a lot of the time, the Societies actually get shafted a bit by the sports clubs, especially for facility hire. I know Pole are in here all the time because they can't actually get a room, which is disgraceful, really. So I'd look at the timetabling and try and get a better relationship with the societies, so sports and societies are equal, because it's about enrichment in university life.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question from the audience, please. Yep, the man in the red top down here.
How much scope do you think there is for increasing postgraduate involvement in sports? Because a lot of the fixtures take place during the daytime when they'll be working on, PhDs and that kind of thing. So what kind of scope is there for putting on more evening and weekend activities within sports?
Okay, so scope for postgraduates being involved in sport. Ted, we start with you.
Yeah, we have quite a few postgraduates with us, and I know they struggle with stuff like that. However, we've run intramural leagues just within our club, and it's something that we were looking at doing with the other clubs as well. So, I mean, rugby takes on hockey at netball, something like that. But a tournament where all the other clubs are invited every weekend would be great. And then postgraduates could either enter a team themselves or enter with a club.
Okay, thank you, Ted. And Cece?
So I was dodgeball captain of an intramural league team, and that involved bringing these are mostly postgraduate students, like 5 people who'd never known what on earth dodgeball was, and teaching them from scratch. There's as much scope as you decide there is. There's as much scope as you recognize the fact that you have the autonomy to change things, and I do. I would involve everyone, and I'm not afraid to do it.
Thank you very much, Cece. Okay, another question from the audience. Yes, the gentleman down here.
So a while ago, I used to be on the squash exec and on the sports committee, and one of the things I always found when I was in those roles was there was a huge amount of bureaucracy within the SU, and I was just wondering what your thoughts were on how exec interactions with the SU actually work and how you'd improve them, I guess specifically with stuff like forms and the number of trips that exec members have to make to the SU to organise a tour or something like that. Thank you.
So improving exec interactions with the SU, and CC, we're going to start with you, please.
Yep, so in terms of applications and forms, this is on my manifesto, I'd take them online so that the hassle and you don't need to go through the middleman, which is the finance office, which is often backed up. And as sitting on an SU exec, I would say my relationship between sports members, execs, as in the execs I'm on in sports currently, is pretty good. Like, I fixed the transport issues that karate had for Bucks, for example, right at the last minute when they needed my help.
I've got to stop you there, CC. Thank you. Ted, to you.
Yeah, it's also in my manifesto that I take forms online, especially forms like money transfer requests. They take an age to get through the SU. It's so frustrating. However, I also talked to American football a couple of weeks ago. They found a real issue with exec handover. So if we could take a better handbook online, I know rugby ourselves, just as a personal experience, we've got something that's pretty much a Bible. It's like 100 pages. But if we could create that for every other club, then it'd be brilliant.
Okay, thank you, Ted. More questions from the audience. Isaac.
Okay, so as sports officer, you have to be very astute at building and managing relationships. So I was going to ask the candidates, what relationships do you think are the most important, and what, if anything, you've already done to start building some of those?
So the most important relationships and building those. Ted, we'll start with you, please.
I think as sports officer, you are the face of the students, so it's the students that's the first and foremost priority. However, to get to a level where we want to perform or to get more funding in sport, more accessibility, we need to increase the relationships with senior management tenfold. Because if we don't do it, then they won't recognise that the reputation of the university will be increased by the reputation of sports being increased, etc., more funding. So, yeah, students first and foremost, then senior management.
Okay, thank you, Ted. And Cece?
I would say there's no necessary relationship that's the most important, because you need to manage all of your relationships well. And I would say normally I would go with the students, but if my relationship with the students is good, but my relationship with senior exec is rubbish, then I'm not doing a very good job. So I would say all of them, because in order to make such a huge team work, 7 SABs, massive university, 24,000 students, you need to manage all of your relationships well.
Thank you, Cece. We have time for one final quick question for the audience, and we'll go to the lady in the front here. Do we have the microphone? Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mike.
So we've not had the smoothest journey with getting one unified kit from one company this year. How would you aim to correct it in the next year?
Okay.
Please, sorry.
Sorry,
I think, it's the mic.
Sorry, so we've not had the smoothest journey with getting one unified kit from one company as far. How would you correct it in the next year?
Okay, so unified kit. Cece, we're going to start with you, please, on this final question.
So that's centralising communication between Speed 1 and BLK. Speed 1 is the middleman between them, and basically working with the finance office to make sure that kit orders are not backed up. And in terms of one unified kit, it's just bringing the kit execs to a meeting in term 3 in order to be prepared for the whole situation.
Cece and Ted, finally.
So we're tied in for the next 2 years with BLK and Speed 1, but lots can be improved. One, the delivery of kit. Kit's delivered with every other sports club. That's ridiculous. It needs to be separated so sports clubs can go in, pick up their kit, take it somewhere else. Communication with Tony is terrible. You have to send him about 20 emails a day for him to respond. We didn't get our exec hoodies till term 2. I mean, there's so much that could be done. It's just, communication first and foremost.
Okay, well, thank you very much. A round of applause to our 2 prospective candidates for sports, Cece and Ted. That brings this evening to a close. We've reached 7 o'clock, so we can all go home. We will be back tomorrow for another question time session, and tomorrow the positions will be DDO, Societies and President, so we hope to see you then. Have a very good evening. Thank you.